Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for waiting. We can begin now. This is an elementary teacher session. So just to make sure you're in the right session, this is session 4. It's an elementary teacher session where we will cover chants, poems, games, and more staging and monitoring. Thank you for those of us who joined us for session 3 this morning, and welcome back again if you're attending the session again. And then we are going to cover, obviously, first semester course books, which is weekend 1, weekend 3, and weekend 5. Before I go on, a quick sound check. If you can hear my voice, please let me know. You should be able to see a hand icon on the right side of your screen. Please click on the hand icon if you can hear my voice. It should be just below your name. Excellent, super, engaging. Thank you so much. Again, moderators for today quickly are me, Zerish, Nikos, Medini, and Nasir. We will be in the background to answer any questions you have or if you face any trouble. Please be patient because there are lots of you in the webinar, so there might be a delay in getting back to you, but we'll try our best to answer all the questions that you have, if not all, but I will cover the FAQs as well, so we will be clear on that. Our trainer is Danai, who needs no introduction by now. Danai is a teacher educator, a content developer. She's done several training workshops in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, and has trained several supervisors and teachers, and has also co-authored the Saudi edition. Thank you, Danai, for joining us.
Thank you.
Great. So for the webinar that you've logged in now, we hope you're able to connect to the audio and you're sorted there. If you're not, my colleague will be able to assist you in the chat, or I will drop a link how you can connect to the audio. By now, you should be able to hear the sound. We just want to address this, so we're moving on, and we would be able to hear Danai talk. To have a seamless webinar, we recommend you close down Netflix, YouTube, gaming platforms, anything such as that. You will be receiving the certificate of this webinar that you've attended. However, you will receive your certificate once the complete first course semester webinar series is over, which is going to be November 19th. So after November 19th, look out for that email in your inbox where you will have the option to download the certificate in the email. We will be addressing Q&As in the end. The session is for 60 minutes, so feel free to stay on for 60 minutes, and then we will be addressing Q&As in the end. So if you want to stay back for the Q&As, you can. If you want to log off, feel free to log off. And as you can see on the right side, you should be able to see Q&A box on the right side of your screen, and also the chat box. Please use the Q&A box to ask us any questions that you have, and the chat box to engage with the presenter. So you can have comments, you can write comments to Danai, you can write anything for Danai. She will ask questions, you can type that in, and you can also chat to us or use the Q&A box. They're both on the right side. You're not disabled. You should be able to see these on the right side of your screen. A few FAQs, before we begin. You are being marked present for this session, so you don't need to worry about where is my attendance or where can I mark my attendance. You are automatically being marked present for this webinar. You don't need to sign in anywhere for this webinar. We can see that you've logged in. It's just automatic in the system. You also don't need to log in anywhere. It's just we also know how long you have stayed in the webinar. It's just the way it is. We see you there. You might also be seeing only yourself on the right side, so only your name will appear. You will not be able to see the list of other participants in the webinar. There are 655 people who have joined so far, and the number is increasing, but you will see only yourself in the webinar. That is because the other participants are not viewed to you for GDPR purpose. You can only see your name, but you're not the only one here, so don't worry that I cannot see my colleagues. Due to the same reason, you will also not be able to see the chat from your colleagues and other teachers and participants. You can only see the chat that you are doing. However, we are able to see your chat. You're very much present here. We can see the name of the participant and also the comments that you're sending in. Danai kindly reads out the comments that you're engaging all along with her. So she will read this out for you, but you won't be able to see them. So she'll read out the comments that are coming in from other participants. You must have received the link to join for this webinar. We encourage you to use the link that has been given to you in your email. So please avoid using the link from your colleagues or anyone else, because that's just going to mess things up for everyone. So just use the links that in your colleagues. I hope I have covered everything so far. Yes, one more thing before I quickly hand over to Danai. Every link is different for every session. So the session that is tomorrow at 10 a.m. has a different link. I'm afraid I don't have the links to these because a lot of you email us and ask us to provide the link. Every link is unique. I just want to address this because there is no one link that is going to work for all. Every participant has their own link. You should have this link in your email. There are going to be two emails, a reminder email and a confirmation email. So every link is different. Just make sure when you're logging in, you're using the right link for the webinar. And I guess it's time to pass over to Danai. Danai has a handout for this session that I'm going to drop in the chat box. It's on a link, so you'll have to download the handout. If she refers to the handout, this is the handout that you need. And I guess that's all from my end. I'll see you on the other side on the chat and the Q&A. Thank you so much. I will pass over to Danai now, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining. Okay, we are going to be talking about chants, poems, well, actually how you can use chants as poems, games, and a few more things, and how you can stage and monitor. Well, obviously online these days. Okay. Now, just to start thinking about things and agreeing some points before we carry on. Chants and jingles, you have both in We Can. They're actually alphabet jingles, if you've noticed, at the back as part of the phonics. And on this point, before I carry on, I would very much like to address two questions that were raised by people as soon as they connected. I assume this is a follow-up from the previous session. And one question is it correct to dictate letters for children to write? Well, if you're going to dictate through formal names, I'm personally not so very keen on this, but if you're going to dictate through the sound of the letter, in other words, be consistent with the phonic system that you're using, then I don't see any problem. However, we use words to deal with letters on purpose because it's easier to remember. So if, for example, you're focusing on C as k, and the children see a picture and they see the word cup, they can circle, let's see, but it's not, it's cup, okay? So because there are different sounds, we avoid doing it through the formal names of the alphabet for reasons that were discussed in the previous session. Okay, why are capitals separate from lowercase letters in We Can? Because they look different and they're formed differently. And actually it's quite useful to also organize activities whereby your learners have to associate lowercase letter with capital letter. As to which are easier or harder, well, there are different opinions there. So some people feel it's lowercase is better because it's used a lot more. Others feel that capitals are better because they're bigger, because it's easier for children to distinguish between them. Okay, so do children like chants? We said we got a positive comment. Yes, they like them. Do they like memorizing them? Some of you asked whether you should ask students to memorize the chants. I prefer to, yes, they do like it, but I prefer to sort of help them memorize by repeating the chants time and time again and using pictures to help them remember. No, they don't. Well, yes, okay, I must admit that the children I have worked with don't like to be sent home to memorize the whole chant. But they do like going over them time and time again and end up memorizing them. So whatever you think is possible for your students. Do they like creating their own chant? No answer. And we can, you will see examples whereby sometimes, whereby children in the fun time, on the fun time page, are asked to substitute the words, replace the words with their own choices to change the chants. Some chants, yes, some of the chants lend themselves more to this sort of thing. But as being creative is really a positive thing for children, it's very good to get them to create their own. And they also feel very proud of that. They feel they have achieved something. Do they like performing and competing? Why are the chants different from the original ones? I can't follow that. Because we're not, you know why, because those were restrictions that were placed. So, you know, we can't have the tunes, if that's what you mean. Okay, chants and drills. Are there any similarities or differences between chants and drills? Have you ever thought of chants and drills? We'll see examples and we'll discuss that a little later. Do they support learning? Do chants support learning? It's got to do also, yes, agreed, Mariam. Yes, sometimes you can hear some of them humming away and using them. Okay, and they're good to help them remember. It's mnemonics. It's easier to do that. Okay, and yes, they can be creative. First of all, you could ask them to illustrate them if they want, and as we said earlier, you can ask them to create your own. They like to memorize the whole song. Okay, fine. Whether if you're using song or chant and chant. Yes. Okay. Yes, because it makes sense, because they can remember it, because they can perform through it, because it works for children. This is the reason why there are so many chants in We Can. Look, what I'd like to say now at this point is that there is no course, no book that's going to be perfect for everybody, meaning the learners, your students, okay? As teachers, what we need to do is identify our learners' strengths and our learners' needs, but first of all, their strengths, what they can do, and adapt things accordingly. But I promise you, whatever it has been included in this book, although it's as imperfect as any other book, if you want to put it that way, is sound from a pedagogical point of view. So it's addressed to children. It's addressed to children. It's addressed to teachers of children. I'm going to hit a certain point now so that we don't have to answer the same questions. Do you translate? Do you have to translate the chants? No. Learning the chants will help them learn, will help them remember the words, will help them remember a lot of things. But no, you don't need to translate. You say sometimes, not if you have pictures, you don't have to translate. If the children translate to make sure to confirm, to get you to understand, to ask you, make sure that they understand what they're supposed to understand, that's a different matter altogether. But basically, the chants are there to be done in English. So they're not there to be analyzed and translated, okay? And no, we don't use grammar translation as a method. It hasn't been used for centuries. I don't see why it should be used now. Okay, no, we don't need to translate. Do we need to translate words? No, we don't need to translate words. Are bilingual lists of words any use? No, they're not. Then you might feel that they make things easier for you or easier for the students. Yes, fine, to study. But they don't make it easier for them to learn the language in order to use it. Yes, Mansur, I know you try to avoid translating, and that's great. Only when it's absolutely necessary, not as part of what you do in class. Yes, I know their mums ask you to translate, but you have to explain that when the kids have to communicate in English or have to understand something that they watch in English, there's not going to be a translator there. I understand that they complain all the time, absolutely. Yes, you see, you also need to very gently and very patiently train the parents. Not only train them a little bit about online teaching, but also share some of these principles with them. If you tell them that if the kids have to use English to communicate with somebody, supposing some of the kids find themselves in a different country or find themselves in an English-speaking country in a summer course, okay? Or attend a course online these days, okay? Or want to speak to other kids from other places online. How is translation going to help them? So it seems to make things easier for everybody, but from a different point of view. From the point of view, no, it's got nothing to do with practicing, but the translation basically is used. English to English is not translation. Yes, fine. English to English is absolutely acceptable. Right. Okay. Yes, right, Noel. But basically what I'm trying to say is that they can't really communicate through translation. And anyway, if you look at international exams, if you look at tests and exams, they're not bilingual. Okay, games. The students enjoy practicing through games? Yes? They can be very simple, but they're still fun. You can involve them. Do you use gaming activities online? Very much, Noel. Yes. Great. Okay. Can gaming activities in your book be adapted and used more creatively? Yes, many. So when you're looking at the material, lovely, thank you. When you look at the material, don't only think of one particular lesson, because a lot of the ideas you can use for other lessons. Remember that the visuals, the pictures, the posters, any pictures in the book or other pictures that you choose can be used for a number of different things. You can use them to prompt different language. And having said prompt, do we all understand what we mean by prompt? Yes? Good. Okay, so when you show most teachers, a big number of skills the students are supposed to master. The children are not supposed to master anything. The children are supposed to develop those skills, okay? But mainly the main skills that we're focusing on in terms of language skills are listening, speaking in English, oral skills, which are their strengths, and trying to develop very slowly and gradually reading and writing skills. Okay, but reading first, recognition first. Okay. How can you use some of the chants and jingles online? Any ideas? Is it possible to do TPR online, total physical response online? You're not required to ask them to memorize the chant. No, okay, it's not possible to do TPR online unless really hard, absolutely. Via video, yes, great. If you can do that, that's super. From YouTube, yes, but the thing is that if you're doing TPR, you have to be able to see your students. So if you can see your students, if you haven't got that many of them, or if you have a platform that allows you to see your students at all times, what do I mean by TPR? Total physical response. That your students mime what you ask them to do or do what you ask them to do. For example, if you say, okay, take out your pencil, they hold up a pencil. If you say, touch your ear, they touch their ear. Supposing you were doing parts of the body, head, and so on, well, you tell them and they do, or they listen to the CD and do. Yes, in many cases, in most cases that I know of, that's not possible. But again, if you have a platform, if you have if you have functions to use, fine, go ahead. If not, you can adapt that and use the CD with pictures, CD with words, or use any of the students' ideas. We'll see some examples. How can you use games online? Hello? Okay, here we hit the word welcome websites, yes, orally through apps, yes, fine, okay, sharing links, cards, all right. I'm going to use that word again. People who are familiar with Zoom will know breakout breakout rooms. What are breakout rooms? So breakout rooms are like private chat rooms where you can send 2 or more students, pairs or groups to work. And how do you monitor? You monitor by listening in. Oops, sorry. Okay. Complete a drawing. Yes, fine. Match. Use picture prompts. How would you fun time as a game? Yes, absolutely. Repeating sentences with sounds. Okay. Would you organize teams, groups, pairs for interactive worksheet? Yes, but that would change. Yeah, okay. It might do if you can't do anything else. Would you assign different roles to members of a group? Would you have like a leader? All right. Okay, yes, fine. Okay. You're also obviously talking about races, like do this in 1 minute or do this in 2 minutes. Okay. But if they have to turn on the camera and play online, yes, okay, fine. Yes, if you can see them, if you have that possibility, so your platform can support it, fine, go ahead. But in order to actually play the game, I think you will have to ask the students to do so in pairs or groups, depending on how many people are required. Okay, so again, we're talking about 1, 3, 5, first semester books. These are the components of the course. Okay, what you've got here, oops, just to remind you, all right, we've dealt with colors a number of different ways. You have a rainbow chant here, yeah? It's very simple. It uses colors which are the words that you have presented and practiced the pictures, practiced the poster. We talked about that in earlier sessions. Yeah, rainbow. Okay, in my experience, they love sort of drawing rainbows and illustrating this themselves. Sorry. Okay, so the chant, we'll go through the stages in a second. Okay, and on the right, what you see is a color race. So basically, if you're in class, yes, fine, you can do it. Touch something red or touch something yellow. If you can see them on video, yes, fine, you can ask them to do the same thing. But if you have a lot of students, this might be a bit of a problem. However, if you put the colors on your screen, even if you haven't got anything extra, you could use this page if you want. Oops. Okay, and ask them, yes, which is their favorite toy, tell you the color, yes, fine, this is personalized. But if you want to practice, if you want to get them to say things, to repeat things, to race, and you can't use objects, okay, use a cursor to point to different colors and get different students to answer. Like nominate 2 or 3 students together to be responsible. So you have teams, you point your cursor, and the team that's fastest gets a point. Show them real things and choose who answers first. Yes, provided you then give the rest of them a chance to repeat. You repeat and you give the chance to the rest of them to repeat. Otherwise, what you'll end up doing is working with just the students who are faster, who know a bit more, who are stronger. And because a number of times differentiated learning, inclusive learning actually came up, it's a good idea not to exclude learners as much as possible. Okay, another chant. Okay, somebody mentioned yesterday that this is their favorite, one of their favorite chants. I mean, to analyze it with mind maps. Mind maps might be a bit tough on kids at this point, but if you think that they work fine. Okay, yes, ask them about their favorite cartoon characters. Thank you very much. That's great. Yes, if you have teams, sorry, parenthesis here. If you have teams, it's good to form teams that are permanent. Because I've mentioned this before. Get them to choose the colors of their favorite team, for example, and use those colors to create their team logo. Make sure they have their own space online where they post things, they create posters, they produce things. In class, it's hands-on. You can put large sheets of paper on a board or on the wall, and they stick things on. They stick on drawings and things they write, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this one goes 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed, yeah? So you can replace the monkeys with maybe a puppet, yes? You can use a puppet by all means. You can replace monkeys with another type with ducks, yes, or another animal. And actually, if you look at this and you see the hands there, this is something that comes up again and again. Oops, did it again. If you look at the book, not rush through it to see if grammar is taught, because grammar is not taught explicitly through rules, because that would be inappropriate developmentally for children of this age learning another language. It doesn't work, it's not necessary, it's not developmentally appropriate. And developmentally inappropriate practice doesn't work. Yes, sign language, body language. So what you're given here, do you see, it's already illustrated. 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed, and you can show them with your hand as well if you want. One fell off and bumped his head. I agree with you that when you animate, when you make this, when you demonstrate this with a real toy or real toys, or you do this by dolls. Yes, very good, Haya. It works really nicely. So when you present it, maybe it's a good idea to show yourself on the screen and present it yourself with real toys or real objects. Okay, and this brings us to something else. Yes, absolutely. You can use real toys and real objects to act as a chance. This brings me to something else. I think Serish mentioned some handouts. Okay. Can I ask you, just go back to it, to have a look at the handout that says teaching and learning face-to-face. Show them a video for the chant. And yes, good. If you have a video to show them for the chant, go ahead. I'm not sure how many of you have access to what material, but yes, it's all there on the web. You can find things. Yes, a lesson from a short story. Very good. Okay. So teaching and learning face-to-face and online. And look at the second page, not the first page. Just points to remember when you're teaching online. Focus on your learners and what you want them to look at on their screen. In this instance, if you are demonstrating the chant, it's obviously you'll have to show yourself demonstrating the chant on the screen. But this is not always the case. You don't always have to appear on the screen for them. Don't feel that your learners have to see you at all times to know you're there. I'm here. You can't see me. You're there. I can't see you, but I can imagine you. I know you're there. We're communicating. Okay, give yourself time to get used to working online if you don't feel confident enough to try different things. Okay, we're going to look at interactive whiteboards in tomorrow's session. Okay. Allow yourself to experiment and try out things. Ask the children how they feel. Make sure they can follow. Find out if it's working for them. Talk to the parents or other adults that might be helping the child and explain what you would like them to do or not to do. You don't want the parents to start doing things necessarily, unless you think it's a good idea to establish a children and parents session from time to time and get the parents to join in. The advantage there from people who have done that sort of thing, but have done it very systematically and in an organized way, yes, they can guess the meaning of by putting pictures on the wall. You can help them guess by putting pictures on the wall. If you do this with parents, if you establish a parents and children session, usually it gives you the chance to iron out any problems, any difficulties, and so on. And actually, parents who are not convinced about online learning, you find start relaxing because they can see that things are moving on, that kids are doing things, that they're learning, that something is happening on screen. Online distance learning has been around for years, but not many people have learned that way. And especially these days when people are feeling a bit worried, scared, and so on, and this has become the norm. It's a new norm, right? So everybody needs a bit of time to get used to it. And what I'd like you to try and remember always is that you shouldn't try to fit the classroom into the computer. It doesn't work that way. This is digital space and it can accommodate quite a lot and in itself has a lot of different levels. So consider this example. If you're in the classroom, the teacher stands in front of the board pointing to some words that are written on it. The words are numbered. He or she is holding some picture cards, flashcards. Every time she holds up a card, students call out the name of the word that matches it. How would you do this online? Would you show yourself standing before a board, holding cards and pointing to the words? You could do it through video, but maybe. Well, my suggestion would be, what do you want the children to see? Do you want them to see you? Or do you want them to see what really we're looking at is the words, the number of words, and the picture card? Yes, good. You can use a mouse as a pointer. Very good. So the main thing to show here, yes, you share photos through the PowerPoint slide. Wonderful. Okay. So the main thing to show here are the numbered words, okay, and the cards on the screen. You don't have to show yourself on the screen. Yes, sharing the screen, fine, but what I'm trying to say is, because I've seen some videos where children, or I've watched children kind of feel that they have to, in a sense, show themselves on the screen behaving in exactly the same way that they do things in class. That's what I mean by not trying to stick the class into the computer, because it's a different, if you like, dimension. It's a different space. Okay? So you need to think very carefully about what is absolutely necessary for your students to see. What do you want them to focus on? And make sure they can see that on the screen and work with it. Right. Okay. So let's go back to this. Okay, we discussed TPR, which would apply to this activity, acting out the chant. Do you think you might want to change some of the activities here? Would you change some of the actions, maybe? Simple words, not anything complicated. I've lost you. Anyone there? Thank you, Mary. Okay. I think, okay. This is something that I think we've already discussed, or am I confusing things? Is this something that we discussed in the previous session? Yes, matching. Okay, good. All right, matching, repeating, and all that. Okay. Again, more TPR. Okay. Confusion game. Okay. It's the seventh letter of the alphabet. No, it's the sixth letter. G is the seventh letter. Okay. This is if you've done ordinals and you've done this and you've done letters through phonics. If you have done formal names for the letters, I know a lot of teachers would do this through formal names of the letters. But whichever way you do it, if you put this on your screen, send the children into the chat rooms so they can work in groups or pairs. It works fine. If you want to work with the whole class, you can nominate. You can call out the names of the students, yeah? So you can say Omar, Adele, Badr, okay? So Badr and Adele, so they do it as open pairs across class. So that can be done online. Okay. I find that quite a few kids find this very entertaining. And obviously, you can change these activities, yeah? And do it through mime. Yes, PowerPoint is good for using online, absolutely. So yes, if you want to do that, go ahead and do it. If not, and you want to use basically pages from your book and so on, make sure, yes, they're on the screen, that students can see what you're focusing on. Absolutely, total physical response is a very important thing for children, especially given different learning styles, okay? Physical activity really helps a lot of kids relate to things, associate things, remember things. So they are important. What you can do is also ask your students to make some moves, get them to move, and on that, I'd like to repeat something that I mentioned in earlier sessions. Reverse roles helps to make them speak. Yes, absolutely. Hand over the role of the teacher, okay? You would be flipping roles then, which is perfectly fine. It's very, very good. So that would be the leader in each group, okay? So if you ask them to do this as total physical response in groups, it's not very easy to work out online, but you could do it with the whole class if you wanted to. Remember, however, if you can't see them, if they can't do it physically, you'll have to replace things with pictures, words, okay, whichever way you can do it. Yes, their favorite cartoon character. This has come up before, so if you would like to establish your own characters, within your classes, please do. Go ahead and do it, because that is really going to give you all kinds of ideas, particularly when things get more creative. And learners can play by making their own suggestions, like here, instead of I'm playing basketball, different acts like playing volleyball, I'm doing karate, I'm drawing, I'm reading, I'm this, I'm that. Okay. Okay, this is another example. And role play, yes. In role play, usually online, you have to send them to the rooms. Yes, it's refreshing to have them move around. I agree. And we get to the main points in session 1 and 2. I can't follow that. We can go back to it later. Okay. What you see here with the card snap game, yeah, you can do this way in class, but online, what can you do? You put the pictures on the screen. They can use the cursors. How do you send them to these rooms? You do it digitally through your platform if you're teaching online. Use the function in your platform. Somebody mentioned yesterday that you don't all have access to that function. Worksheet strategy. Okay. That you don't have. So if you haven't got access to that function, obviously you can't do it. Yes, you use Teams. Fine. You use Teams. How do you use Teams? Don't they have their own space digitally? I mean, so they can practice in Teams. Can you listen in? I know they haven't got much time, but look at the language. Look at the language. It's very specific. Remember, we have very clear goals. So the first thing not to do is not to panic. What you have in We Can are extremely clear goals and very clear, very straightforward activities that you can transfer online. Maybe some will be hard to transfer online, but the illustration will still help the kids. Yes, number the pictures instead of hitting them on the screen, okay? We saw examples of that in the previous session. I haven't included the example in this. Yes, use cards on the board. Okay. Now this one, chat books. Yes, if they can write, yeah? I'm assuming we're dealing with beginners still. Okay, this one I have used myself and allowed the kids to change it, to change the words and create their own poem. Okay? Illustrate it, all right, and present it. The goals of We Can series, there are very specific goals that are included. These are the goals that I'm talking about. Okay? At the end of every lesson, you have, I can do something. I can, in this case, I can chant the I Love the Mountains chant. I can name seasons and months, yeah? So every 2-page lesson, this is it, has specific goals. I don't understand. There was, when do we finish? In the beginning? Okay. All right. Jingles. Usually you'll find them in the phonics section. Okay. And it's, do you mean this lesson was too long or the previous lesson? Do you mean this lesson was too long? Yeah, okay, fine, agreed. Now, let me suggest something. Before you assign time, look through the lessons. Decide which lessons you think are going to take you a bit longer and which lessons you're going to be able to do in a shorter amount of time. If you don't speak all the time in class, you will have enough time. Sorry, it's not class, online. If you don't lecture all the time, if you organize activities, manage time so that you give the children the opportunity to listen, say, you speak to model, you speak to set up activities, you speak to model again to help, but you don't speak the rest of the time. You get the children to practice. If you do that, there is going to be enough time. Now, when it comes to closed systems like the months, yeah, usually those tend to be a bit more difficult for a lot of the kids. So obviously these are things that they will have to try and learn with a bit more effort. You shouldn't expect it all to come out smoothly with no problems by the end of the lesson. Yes, well, yes, something about the drawings. Well, what can we do? As I said, notebook is simple, it's perfect. And we have actually worked very closely with Saudi partners to get approval for some of the things. So Yes, I know you dress normally in Saudi Arabia these days, but you see, this was done when things were a little different. Okay. Um, teach names. They should know how to write months? No, not necessarily. Just very gradually. Yeah. You're still at phonics stage. You can ask them to copy. You can ask them to, you can do some traditional things like that. Get them to copy, get them to give them partial words to complete, trace and so on. And if you open if you look at the workbook pages, you will get things to do like that. If you want your students, start them to memorize the names of the months. Absolutely. This is why you need to repeat, to give them a chance to do them a number of times. Again, I'll repeat something that I said in previously. Well, probably in the first session, actually. You can see that it's full of chants, yeah? Rhythm, chants, steady pace, helps people memorize, helps people associate, helps the children learn and have fun at the same time. But again, if you don't want to make their lives difficult and you want them to be able to learn a lot of this, and by learning the chants, they don't learn something totally different. What they do is they practice language that you have taught them, that they are supposed to be learning. So in your teacher's book, there are always suggestions about how to start the lesson and recycle something that you did in previous lessons or the previous lesson. Do it in every lesson, I would say. Choose the chants that you want to repeat. You will find in the end that you have chants, the students telling the chants in like a course of 2 or 3 minutes, okay? But this is something that needs to be repeated time and time again. So you asked about the stages, okay? See the American accent. It doesn't matter. Yes, fine, it's an American accent. Well, quite honestly, I mean, a lot of things are in an American accent these days, aren't they? On the web as well. So it doesn't matter. It's good for the children to be exposed to different accents. If you have a different accent, it doesn't matter. As long as it's intelligible, as long as people can understand and it's clear, okay? Yes, I know they only have 2 class hours per week, but quite honestly, you can do a lot in those hours unless you get so stressed that you end up explaining everything. It's not about explaining everything. It's about showing and doing. How you evaluate the skills, you evaluate them on an ongoing basis, lesson by lesson, okay, as you do the activities. If they can, you see, this is why I'm saying if you speak all the time and you don't give your students the chance to do things, then you can't evaluate, you can't assess, you don't know what they can do. And it's not fair to rely on a final test only to decide if they have learned or have not learned. Again, taking into consideration different learning styles, different strengths, that's not how it works. And anyway, nowadays, that's not how it works at all. We do go for formative learning. We do try and see how much they learn and what they need more work on. We try to give them some help with. In the time we have, how can you deal with a native student in class? Do you mean somebody who's a native speaker of English? Hello? Yes, well, if it's a native English speaker, well, you can get them to help you, can't you? Great, that's a bonus. Okay, share the job with him. Tell him exactly what to do, though. Okay, use him as a leader. That would not be a problem at all. I would consider it a bit of a bonus, quite honestly. Okay, so chants and jingles. Okay, pictures or mime to get keywords, to get key things going. Play the CD. Students listen, point, or listen and act, mime. Play the CD. Students listen again and follow in their books. They follow in their books sort of generally if they can read, just to expose them to the written script as well. Okay. Play the CD in sections again. Students listen and repeat. Play it again. Students use visuals to help them remember and chant. Form groups or pairs and assign different parts of the chant or jingle. Groups or pairs perform. Okay? These are stages. You might want to insert a repetition somewhere or something, but basically these are the basic stages to follow. You get suggestions like that in your teacher's book. As to the goals, if you're asking about the curriculum, the ministry curriculum, it's in the back of your book. So I think you will be able to find it. Yes, we all prefer film clips for chants, okay? But there is a tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to do more in the future. But at this point, what I would like to suggest is that you do use what you can find on the web if you think it's appropriate. Okay, and you will be able to find a lot of things. So you can find videos with chants, you can find things to use. So if you've got the time to look for them and find them, yes, please go ahead and use them. Somebody asked again about objectives. The goals are objectives. If you're referring to the curriculum objectives, the official curriculum objectives, those are in the back of your book. And it shows where they appear in your book. Now, because this book was produced with children in mind, some of the objectives that appear in your curriculum might not be there through an activity or something that takes a lot of time. If you feel that you have to stress that point, please go ahead. That's something that you would do with any book anyway, wouldn't you? Okay. Games. Now we've seen examples, so you can see that the pictures, the illustrations in your book give us an important point in every lesson. The important point in every lesson is in your teacher's guide. Please use your teacher's guide and please look at the goals for every lesson. These are the goals that the lesson serves. Now, your teacher's guide will also help you in terms of singling out words that you're dealing with. It's easier than get ready, it's more beautiful. So, thank you very much. That's great if people like it. But as I said, no book is perfect for everybody. It can't happen. This is our job as teachers, to adapt things, to make them more appropriate for our students. So use the picture in your book, show it on screen, let the children look at it, because it represents the actions, the activity, the game. Now, I know you'll have to transfer online, but the illustration will still help the children understand what they're supposed to do. Play the CD, students listen and point to bits in the illustration, in the picture on their book, in their books, or listen and act, mime, if that's what you prefer. Repeat each stage if necessary. This goes for all stages, okay? And how do you know if you have to repeat? You ask them if they understand. They will all say they understand because they don't want to be put on the spot and they don't want to seem less capable or intelligent than their peers. You will know if they understand. Yes, ask questions, exactly. You ask questions, but also demonstrate with a student. Or ask students to demonstrate, okay? Get a pair to demonstrate, not in the rooms, not in as teams. Get a pair to demonstrate while everybody is looking at the screen, so and everybody can hear. Get a second pair to demonstrate, okay? Invite more students to demonstrate. Examples, as many examples as possible. Then form groups, pairs, or teams, and send them off to work in teams and play the game, okay? Monitor, again, listen in. Oh, that's great. We got a comment from somebody that said, sometimes I ask them to do it on video after class and send me the video. That's fantastic if you can do that. How to make pair work online? Well, through the team rooms, through the separate chat rooms that you can also listen in on. Check the functions on your platform, okay? Find out exactly what you can use. Feedback, absolutely. Okay, sorry, just looking at the time. Okay, I chose this to look at with you because it's combining letters and chant, okay, rhythms and reading here. Okay. Now, would you use the formal names of the letters here or the sound, phonics? The sound, very good. And the children would have to use the sound as well, yeah? While they're playing this game. Wonderful. Okay, so you know how to use phonics. Why don't we begin with letters? Why don't we, when we start teaching these children, why don't we do reading, writing earlier? Spell words. Yes, there is a bit of spelling here. There. Yes, correct. Okay. Again, to repeat. In order to learn how to deal with written language through reading and writing, you need to be familiar with the sound system. Yes, you need to focus on the sound, but you need to be familiar with the sound system of the language. It makes no sense. Yes, the ear is the strongest. Absolutely. They have really developed oral skills. Okay? It makes no sense to begin with reading and writing when the children are not familiar with the sound systems of the language, or at least have not really thought about them a lot or used them in it. In our class, we have some slow learners. I don't know what you mean by slow. That's a bit complicated. Okay. Do you mean people who are having difficulties? But what kind of difficulties? Do they have difficulties adapting to the new language? Well, yes, this is why you need to help them. But the more you do, the better. Ask them to listen to the CD time and time again. Ask them to listen to the CD as they're doing their work in their workbook, okay? What I had found out in the past was that in some cases, the students were not encouraged to use the CD enough. It's really going to help. Yes, well, it's not the instructions that they have to listen to. Okay, and you can guide them there. Tell them not to spend too long on the instructions, just to focus on the example and what they need to do. You can spend a little bit of time explaining that. And anyway, before you send them home to do some homework, it's always a good idea to do a little bit in class to make sure they all understand. This is going to help everybody, including some of your slower students. Post some drawings and writings. Yes, good. Use what they have learned in daily routines. Yes, fine. Okay. All right. This is a favorite for some people and not so favorite for others. Can we get your records? So you mean the CDs? You should, don't you have the CDs? Okay. Different animals, yeah? I think a dolphin is cute. A seahorse is cuter than a dolphin. A baby seal is the cutest. Okay? And by the way, this is grammar in action. For those of you, yes, absolutely, comparative superlatives, but you don't need to use grammar terms because grammar terms are not appropriate for this age group. Grammar terms are meta-language. They're for us. They're for older people. They're for people who can analyze at that level. Okay, it's not developmentally appropriate, and it's a waste of time to try and make the children learn meta-language, which is really not going to help them much. What they need to do is understand the meaning of the difference in form. Okay, and look, you have a chart here, a little table. Get them to look at it, okay? So a dolphin is cute, isn't it? It's a little dolphin, it's a baby dolphin. But a seahorse, look at it, it's great. It's cuter than a dolphin. A baby seal, however, is the cutest. If you couple this with photos from the web, if you like, you're going to be able to show the meaning, okay? Yes, you need to show the fact that there's comparison there. If you want to present this comparison in a different way, through different objects, please go ahead. But the main point of the grammar is to understand what language, how language changes, how the form changes in order to convey this meaning, to compare. This is how you start. You don't teach the children about the grammar. You don't want them to learn that things are a subject, an object, a verb, and so on. In what level of we can 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, we focus on reading? Throughout. The difference is that this is, again, a different language that the children have to develop literacy skills in. So you have to go very gently, but very soon you get into reading, and you get into reading almost immediately. But in the beginning, it's exposure and recognition and association, okay? Then you could expect them to be able to read. Okay. No, they don't have to know the names of all the sea animals mentioned in the book. In fact, you might want to replace some of them to give them some words about animals that they're more familiar with, that they would like to talk about. Okay. There was a question, if you remember in your handout, about whether there are any similarities or differences between chants and drills. Okay? Drills that are repetitive. You can drill through pictures, obviously. Recognition, exposure, this is what they need concerning grammar. Yes, absolutely. And meaning, remember, meaning. They have to understand why we're using what we're using. What do we use it for? Why do we say, I'm sitting now? To describe what? I'm sitting now. Can you say, I sit? I sit. Can you say, I'm sitting every day? Not at this level. You might come across it a lot later for emphatic use and so on. Okay. Now, in this case, it says, can you read the words and write them in the correct blanks by yourself? You just asked about reading. How could they possibly do this if they couldn't read? Now, they won't be able to read perfectly. It's more like yes, some of the tasks are very similar. The only thing is, this is a different language. This is a different script. It's different directionality. Okay, so they need a bit of help. So you can help them. You can invite learners online. You can ask volunteers to read a little bit of it. Ask the kids not to write anything. Get suggestions. Do this orally. Then let them read and complete. Okay? So they need a lot of support. You need to scaffold activities. Yes, fine. If you have to read, yes, read. You need to help them there, not test them all the time. This is what I meant at some point when I said it's important to help our learners learn, not feel that we have to test them all the time in class. And remember, if all you're doing is focusing on the mistakes that they're making, you will never be able to see what they can do. And when it comes to evaluation, quite honestly, you have to be able to say what they can do. And all of them can do things because children have amazing minds. They can use them. They can do absolute wonders. Yes, you have to encourage them. And this material should help you do so. Okay? And so, elements to gamify games. Yes, we know the time is up. You need these things. Images, objects, numbers, teams, groups, pairs, okay? And different activities that you can do. And if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands because I think we'll have to stop here. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for communicating. Thank you for all your comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We know time's up, and you have to leave for after prayer, and you have also classes starting at 3 p.m., I guess. So thank you for joining us. You can leave for now, but if you want to stay back for the Q&A, we're going to do that now. So if you have to leave, you can leave at the moment, but for people who want to stay back for the Q&A, they can stay back. I'm going to start asking you, Denai. There were some very, very good questions that we came across today. So thank you for sending all those questions to us. Our students never practice English outside the classroom. That's, I think, a concern raised by one of our participants.
Sorry?
Our students never practice English outside the classroom.
Our students better practice?
Never practice, sorry.
Oh, never practice. Yeah, fine, okay. Yes, there will be cases like that. They don't now, but you're preparing them for a time when they might have to or they might want to. And anyway, coronavirus or not, and particularly because we're all doing things remotely, the whole world is becoming more global, if you like. And this is a global medium. This is how one should think of it, really. It's a language that most people learn to be able to communicate with people around the world. And children communicate. They communicate through games. They learn a lot, as you yourselves mentioned, through games, through interactive activities, and so on. You ask them to use it in restaurants or shops. Thank you very much. This is what I had observed in Riyadh, actually. That there were people who spoke English in malls, you know, when they're shopping and so on and so forth. There's a number of students. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Sorry, I'll just move on. Sometimes I explain the grammar task. Is it right to explain?
It depends what you mean. Yeah.
I'm not sure what this question means, and I think it's more addressed to I explain the grammar task maybe in the mother tongue, is it? Is it right to explain?
Yeah. No, you don't have to explain, translate to Arabic. You don't have to explain in the way of breaking it down grammatically and analyzing the form. Again, what you need to do is present grammar in context. That was part of language in context. That was part of what we did yesterday in a way that's going to show the meaning. So if you have pictures that show somebody's daily routine, as you've seen in some cases, then obviously what you're showing is that this happens on a daily basis, okay? So when is a concept question. So when? Now? No. When? Every day, okay? It's a routine. It's something that happens all the time. That's important. If you want to say very quickly in Arabic that it's a routine, okay, fine, I can live with that. But you don't stop and waste time in class explaining in Arabic to show that you know about grammar. We all know about grammar. And a lot of the times, what happens is you get a lot of material. You get books that give you grammar. Not correct for this age group, unnecessary, okay? There are people who are perfectly fluent, articulate. Why don't you ask some native speakers about grammar? You'll find out that half of them, if not most of them, haven't got a clue about some of the terms and things that you know. Because it's not necessary, because they learn it in a different way. And they pay attention to the meaning, to the concept and the style, and so on and so forth. Finish.
Thanks, Banai. And the next one is, what are the steps of teaching chants?
I just showed you the steps as part of the session. Do you want me to go back?
A small yes, you can leave, Mr. Muhammad. If you could, yeah, I think I'll have to give over presenter rights to you, right? There you go.
Okay. Show, point to pictures. I'm sorry, I forgot to put mime, act out, and elicit, review any keywords. If you think there are words that you need to help them remember before you get on with the chant, you can do this. If you don't think it's necessary, don't. Get them, definitely get them to look at pictures, or a whole picture, a poster, as you play the CD for students to listen and point, or listen and act, mime, do something with what they listen to. Play again, students listen again, and follow in their books, give them a bit more time. If they can't read, they kind of look at the writing and read some of the words, look at the pictures. So they're still going through the development stage. Play the CD in sections. Students listen and repeat. If you think the chant is too long, you can break it down into sections and get them to listen and repeat. Play the CD. Students use visuals to help them remember and chant, or you use the visuals to prompt. You can repeat any stage that you feel is necessary as many times as possible. Form groups of pairs and assign different parts of the chant or jingle. Groups of pairs perform. You can do this with your whole class online. If you want to insert a stage here to give them a bit of time to practice, to rehearse in groups, and you have a function to send them off to work in teams, you can give them just a few minutes, a couple of minutes to try and rehearse and then perform for the rest of the class.
Thanks for revising that, Tanai, with the audience. We hope you're able to get that now. And yes, you can leave the session. We'll just take one more question or two if you have time. Is there a way to make it easier to read fluently?
Do you mean read fluently, like read aloud?
That's all it says.
I suspect people are talking about reading aloud. Okay, which is what we do with children, because again, in mother tongue, because they have the sound system, and we want to make sure they're associating the letters, the words with the sound, with the correct sound. So it's a fairly traditional thing to do. Well, this is what you can do more and more of the same. In other words, get them to listen and follow. Do all the activities where they have to listen and match with words. They have to listen and match with maybe the different lines of the chant, okay? Jumble up the lines of the chant, get them to listen and number them, okay? So you can do all kinds of activities like that.
Yes, that makes sense. Also, the next one is, do you recommend using a knowledge spreadsheet strategy?
Sorry?
Do you recommend using a knowledge spreadsheet strategy? Knowledge spreadsheet strategy.
A knowledge spreadsheet strategy, yes, fine, you can go ahead and use it, but gently, depending on the age group, so that it is developmentally appropriate.
And the last one is, how can we dictate to children online?
You mean tell them words for them to write?
Yes.
First of all, okay, in very initial stages, we don't dictate because we don't expect them to be able to write whole words. So they need to listen and complete things. We have seen some examples of that. Please look at your teacher's guide. You'll get suggestions, but also look at the tasks in the books, because you do get writing like that. But what I would suggest is that initially, you don't get the students to actually write whole words. And look at the whole phonics work that is being done. Maybe later you can get them, you can ask them maybe to learn how to spell 2 or 3 words at a time. But you know how we all develop our spelling, or some people never do actually. Some of us can't spell correctly all the time. But you know how we do it, through exposure, and we don't even remember how we do it half the time.
True. I guess that's it. That comes up to the end now. And thank you everyone for joining us. This is about session 4, for elementary teacher. We have our last session tomorrow, which is session 5. We are going to cover this tomorrow at 10 a.m. and we hope you join our session. Again, you will receive the link tomorrow in your email, so please make sure you answer that and get back to us. You can stay connected on our social channels here. And that's it. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for your comments. Thank you so much.